I'm joined today by the three-time Lakeside World Champion and the former Premier League champion, Glen Durrant. Glen, how are you?
I'm really, really good. You're catching me on a good day. So looking forward to chatting to you guys.
Excellent. It's your ninth time on the show, but it's been a little while since we last had you on as a guest, just before the start of your Premier League title defense in 2021. I know you've spoken a little bit already about the last 2 years and the tough times you've had on the Aki, but when you think back to that Premier League campaign in 2021, how hard is it to think about it?
Very hard, actually. I try to be as transparent as possible with every answer that I give, and sometimes it's better to just give you the scenario of being laid in a Milton Keynes hotel, getting slammed 6-0, 7-0, whatever it was, against Dimitri van den Berg, and then laying there thinking, tomorrow night I've got Michael van Gerwen, and the night after that I've got Peter Wright. I mean, it was awful. I knew there was things fundamentally wrong with my throw. My confidence was down to nothing, but the sad reality was, the money is fantastic for Premier League. And I just kept thinking, if I can just do this week's work and get through it, it was like the equivalent money of 18 months of being a housing manager. But it was to the detriment in the end, because that was just like a boxing fight where I was just punched in the face for 12 rounds. It was an awful experience, and the time you've got to hit the highs and the lows, well, that 2021 campaign was a real low.
Yeah, and of course that Premier League was still being played behind closed doors and in blocks. Your next appearance on television after it, we did see the crowds back at the World Match Play in July of 2021, but the return to form was still posing a challenge for you. What was it like walking up on those stages in front of a sellout crowd, where you'd produce some memorable results in the past, making a semifinal, and not be able to perform at the level you wanted? Yeah,
I felt a fraud to my sponsors and family and friends, because I knew driving up to Blackpool, I mean, I know that we're going to touch on the World Grand Prix, but that was worse, driving to Leicester, because by then my game had imploded. It was terrible. But the match play had a lot of people, a lot of fans, probably hoping for the 2019 Glen Durrant, but I knew deep down that was a million miles away. And playing Callan Rids, I did practice okay in the back that day. I was practicing with James Wade, and sometimes you just hope it'll be all right on the night. But very dark times, the match play, but in particular the Grand Prix was just horrific.
Yeah, I actually wasn't planning to ask about the Grand Prix, but since you mentioned it, if you do you want to go into detail on that?
I just knew my game then had gone. I knew I was playing last. A good friend, Mark Selby, the snooker player, was there. The crowd had pretty much left because I was playing Jose last, and I had a 58 average, and that was a difficult drive home. I think people were then beginning to realise, and then the Glen Durrant's never going to make it in the PDC brigade. They were back out, but it was a tough read at times. But you know what? I mean, Britain love a good loser, and unfortunately, 99%, and I highlight the word unfortunately, 99% of the messages I was getting were just from nice messages from people, and I was so missing the day when people were calling me a fat elephant. I think Gerwin Price called me one day or something, whatever it was. But I miss them days when people were actually saying not so good, nice things about me. It was like I say, it was just a difficult year.
I bet. And coming into 2022, we saw early on in the year that you started offering coaching sessions. We wanted to get you back on now for a little while to ask about that. And almost a year on, it looks like it's something that's working and that you're enjoying. Is coaching something you've always wanted to get into?
Age 55, it would have been nice. That was the plan. So it was 3 years earlier than expected, and I just didn't realise how successful. I mean, I am talking a very, very busy diary, and even squeezing in 2-3 a day now, which is not what I like to do, because I like the preparation of getting someone ready, because I ask for a brief. I'm working with straight to the point darts, so they get a YouTube video, all the slow-mos that maybe your eyes can't see directly. It's working absolutely fantastic. Now, I can't turn anyone into someone in 2 hours. Ideally, you want to be seeing them every week, as a mentor, chatting to them, going to some of the games. So it's very, very difficult. But you can teach people the fundamentals, and now I'm beginning to get. I mean, I had 11 development tour players in their last development competition that there was. I just looked at the names and I was like, wow, 11 of them have been to my house for coaching, and they're the ones I like, where you can teach young people just subtle changes. And when I say subtle changes, I've only had one Pro Tour card. I mean, the day I lost my card, I had 3 Pro Tour card holders then saying, can I come and see you now, Glenn? But then you're looking at subtle changes, preparation, mindset, consistency. How did you do this, Glenn? But my favourite client to come in is someone who walks in and they're averaging, between 40 and 50, and they're standing face on and they're hitting a big 13, then an 18, and at the end of the session they're hitting 3 straight 20. So there's just a mixture of all, but absolutely gone crazy, busy.
I hit 3 straight 20s the other day, so maybe I'm already too good to take the lessons. No, I kid. I'll never score 60, just 45s and 38s. But
I'll teach you.
But that brings me to my next question. It's not just in the UK, but players from all over the world have been in touch with you about booking a coaching session with you. For our listeners who might be interested, I know you mentioned that you're pretty overbooked, but how is the calendar looking? And do you have got many spaces left now?
No, is the honest answer, because I hope I'm not breaching confidentiality here, but I am working on a trial with PDC TV as well, so I'll be commentating on Pro Tour Play Championships 3 and 4. I hope I haven't been, and there's something in the offing about commentating on a Euro Tour as well, plus the modus commentary I'm doing, which is so the most difficult thing for me right now is juggling it all about, because you don't get the 6 months calendar that you would as a dart player, where you know exactly where you go and what you're doing. Now it's a case of he's a rotor coming out, Glenn, and you think, I don't believe it. I've got PDC TV that day. I've got coaching that day. So the life of a commentator /coach, /world senior is, my diary is as busy now as it's ever been. And I'm using my brain again, like I did 30 years as a housing manager. So, the Glen Durrant that you're talking to now, is just a totally different character to the one who was in 2021 and 2022 who was hiding away. And I want people to understand that, because I think everyone thinks, Glenn, you'll get back to being a dart player. Well, if it does, then wonderful. But, I've got other things now. I feel like part of me's done my bit of dart, being a 3-time Lakeside champion. And when your mentality, things like, there's a wonderful saying I read, and it's something like, if you're no longer then chasing the dream or chasing the target, the next target, life becomes very difficult after that. And I think the day I won that world, when I won the Premier League, part of me was like, wow, I've done it, I've achieved it. And every interview I watch with a Gerwin Price and Michael van Gerwen, they're already talking of the next competition. And that's where the mindset of a dart player comes in. But I'm in a good space, but in answer to your question, my diary is as busy now than it's ever been.
Yeah, well, you also anticipated our next question about commentary. Now that we've covered that, I'll also go on. It's not just commentary that's gotten you on television recently, but you also made an appearance on Eggheads in November alongside Keegan Brown. What was that experience like, and how did you get on?
It was bizarre, is the word. I mean, I drove down and never really thought about it, because the life of a dart player, blah, blah, blah. It's like sometimes you're going from day to day, and then Eggheads was suddenly on top of me, and I'm like driving to London. And then it's when I think I got in the studio and I sat down, the lights come down and the 4 Eggheads come in. I was like, what the hell am I doing here? I mean, I don't do quizzes or anything, and I've got certain subjects that I like. I like to think I'm a fairly intelligent person, but when it comes to general knowledge, and the first thing that comes up is history. And I was like, they looked at me, he's like, Glenn, will you take one for the team? As in, just go and guess. And I was like, no. But I thought if food and drink comes up, I'll give that a go. And sport, I think I can take anyone in the country at. And then food and drink come up, I take on, well, while I'm here, I'm going to take on Kevin, who's universally known as the best egghead in the world. You know what I mean? He's so intelligent, and and incredibly, I won that. And that was like, life is complete now.
Yeah. Now we'll go back to the hockey. Last year finished off with the World Championship PDPA tour card holder qualifier. And after you said it was part relief and part incredible disappointment after that event, what was that whole day like playing in the qualifiers and then afterwards knowing that your time as a PDC professional was at an end, at least for now?
Yeah, I just knew I wasn't going to qualify. I was in no sort of form, but a big part of it is that you just hope that you stand on the hockey and something comes back of that player who just loved dart at the lakeside, who just found it effortless just to throw a dart, who would never think, how do I do this? What do I do? Because once you start thinking as a dart player, and so, the thought of this year being still on the tour and being slammed 6-0 and 6-1 and just against people you should beat. When Gerwin Price beat me 6-0, he looked at me with embarrassment, and I think part of him wanted me to take a leg or two. It was just not pleasant, and I think I didn't go sulking. I didn't. There was moments where I've walked out of a game, and there's moments where I've left after day 3, and I'd like to think I remained a bit of a fighter there, which was synonymous to my game of being that fighter. So, at the end of it, it wasn't a big oh my God, I didn't start crying. I was like, well, what's happened? I just started looking at different challenges, and, people still want to hear from me and see me. I'm busy on the exhibitions, and, I'm still a big part of Mac Elkin's team. He uses me as a mentor to the other players. Glenn, what do you think of how shall I deal with this? What about this player? Someone's had a drop in form. Can you recommend? So I'm playing just different roles. And like I said, many, many times in this interview, it's a much happier Glen Durrant in 2023.
One door closes and another one opens, and you accepted an invite to play the World Senior Championship, which will be coming up in just a few weeks now. Did it take much persuading to say yes, or were you keen to get involved straight away? And as a related question, do you know yet what walk-on song you're going to be using for it?
Yeah, I can answer all them questions, and I'll be as honest as I've been honest. It did take a lot of persuading, because even now I don't particularly want to be. I would rather just take 12 months away from the game, play local league like I did last night, Super League, etc. But when Modus and Jason Tame come calling, and I felt like I had a duty to Jason because he's given me the opportunity as a commentator. He wanted bums on seats at the seniors. I'm working with Phil Taylor in Germany this year on the Power Tour, and he said it in his own unique style. Come on, Glenn, let's do this together. And then, not maybe them words, but it sort of resonated with me when he just said, just get your ass there. Basically it was. So I did, but I don't hold much over. I don't think I'm going to be the world senior this year. I just would love to come off there being competitive again. The thought of playing the Scott Mitchells, the Robert Thorntons, and Kevin Painters, Richie House, and these guys are on. They're playing as better than they've ever played. The non-seeds are better than the seeds at the World Seniors. When I looked at the list yesterday, it's going to be a phenomenal competition. But right now, I can't see me being at the top of the tree. I have other targets for the World Seniors. It's just back to enjoying the game I love so much as a man all my life, and all of it, rather than them dark days of 21 and 22 we've talked about there. And I'm 100% coming back to my Lakeside song of Pigbag. So until Adrian Lewis comes a senior in 20 years or whatever it would be, I've got Pigbag back, and that just gives me goosebumps. To walk onto the song that I've always loved, and it's obviously a big one with Middlesbrough Football Club.
Of course, and it's been a good season so far for Middlesbrough, finally, after a poor start. But you mentioned as well winning that title last night in the ADC events, and you beat your nephew, Jamie Durrant, in the final. Just two questions about that. What does it mean to win a tournament again, and what have you made of your nephew's progress the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, the reaction when I won was similar to my reaction when I won the first Lakeside against Danny Noppert. It was I turned round and just two fists clenched and just looked up to the sky type thing, because it was just a few locals getting together, but to me it meant an awful lot, because it just to feel that winning line again, to run through the tape, it just meant an awful lot. And the messages I've had today, if you would think I've won a fourth Lakeside, and I'm so proud of the way Jamie was, and part of me was like, Jamie wants me to win more than I want to win here, because I didn't realise how heartfelt it was for me to, to be on the winning rostrum again, because I think people felt, they've seen me through the ringer the past 2 years when, I got a little bit spiritual about it. I've had all these highs, and, now it's your turn to deal with the lows, and it was just difficult that wherever I went, people would look at me as if, someone had died. It was just, but inside I was at peace. And I just think last night people were wanting to see the old guard, put one over the new guard, because Jamie's going to do big, big things, and I'm here to help him. I want him to stand on his own 2 feet, etc. And he had good runs at Challenge Tour last week. He's got a real talent. So to get one over him, I tried my hardest and got over the winning line with a 1:16 finish.
And then one last question. Looking back over the last 4 years in the PDC, and even you mentioned some people thought you would never make the switch or never should make the switch, but you got your tour card, won a titles, made it to the top 16 in the world, topped the Premier League, and won it before, obviously, the last 2 years, the form dropping off. Are you able to sit back and really take in what the last 4 years of your life have brought you?
Yeah, I have a big one for self-reflection. And maybe that's to the detriment again, but I'm extremely proud. I was a BDO. I was the best player in the BDO for a long time. The scrutiny on me was incredible. And I thought moving over to the PDC, I'll be, the scrutiny won't be so much. And it was massive. I remember reading something from Dart Connect said I was the most watched person in 2019 as a dart player, but I handled it. And I always say to people, the coaching, I went from a pub player to, I always said in April 2020, I think I played just before the COVID lockdown, I played Darryl Gurney in Liverpool. And I think I went to bed that night thinking, I'm the best player in the world right now. So for 1 week of my life, the PDC gave me the dream and opportunity of feeling that I was the best player in the world, albeit for 7 days. But it was just an incredible ride. But in sport, you have the highs and the lows, and now I can experience both. So when people can come to see me and they're struggling with the release of a dart and if they're throwing it too fast out there, I can understand, because all of a sudden when my timing and everything went, I could begin to understand and offer advice, and don't do what I do of practicing on your own, thinking that you're practicing correctly. So the whole PDC journey was just an unbelievable one, and these young players now are fighting for millions and millions of pounds. It can change your life. You can be millionaires, but you just got to sit back, and I want to use that role with Target as well to mentor someone who can pick up the phone if things are going wrong. And yeah, it's just been absolutely brilliant. And I am talking like I've sort of retired, but right now it would seem a long, long way away for me to get another tour card at Q School next year. But that's the aim, that's the plan. But right now I'm just enjoying other things. And like I said, for the 5th time, the person you're speaking to today is a much happier one that's been for a long, long time.
And at the end, that's all that really matters. Best of luck this year, Glenn. Thank you, and up the borough.
Thank you very much, and up the borough.